People don't usually look twice at a homeless woman digging through garbage. But today, someone recorded it and laughed. By nightfall, her face was everywhere, plastered beneath captions like, "Urban wildlife scavenges again." What they didn't know was that just 2 nights earlier, she'd carried a half-drowned boy for miles through a storm that swallowed a city whole. Her name was Lila Monroe, 42, black, once a nurse. Now, a ghost in rags wandering downtown Fairview with a shopping cart full of bottles, broken umbrellas, and a half-dead cat named Trouble. Most people saw her as a cautionary tale. Others didn't see her at all. But on the night the rivers rose and the sky fell, Lila became something more. The flood came without warning. It wasn't supposed to hit Fairview. Forecasts said light showers. By midnight, it was chest deep and rising. Entire neighborhoods swallowed. Sirens failed. Cell towers blinked off. And somewhere in the chaos, a little boy in a red Spider-Man jacket got swept from his nanny's arms. That's how she found him face down in the water, snagged on a street lamp. Lila didn't hesitate. She dropped everything: her cart, her tarp, even her food and oven. Her fingers bled, clawing at the rusted post. The water surged, black and screaming, but she held tight. The boy wasn't breathing. She tilted his face, blew into his mouth, and waited. Nothing. She blew again. A cough. Then a sob. And then her tears. She carried him. For hours. Through alleyways turned rivers. Over fences slick with algae. Her knees gave out twice. Once, she passed a National Guard convoy waving flashlights. They ignored her. She screamed. They didn't hear. So she walked. 6 miles. To Mercy Hospital. When she Araved mud-covered, barefoot, cradling the mayor's son in her arms, security nearly tackled her. "He needs help," she screamed. "He needs help." It took 5 nurses and 1 doctor to pry the boy from her arms. He lived. And Lila? She vanished before they could even thank her. 3 days later, someone filmed her pulling moldy toast from a trash bin behind City Hall. The video went viral. No one recognized her. Not the mayor. Not the nurses. Not the nanny. Guess who's back dumpster diving? Downtown's rat queen returns. One commenter wrote, "Someone should just hose her off." No one knew that their beloved mayor, Charles Whitman, had been crying beside his son's bed, whispering thanks to a mystery woman who disappeared into the rain. No one until little Sam opened his eyes. "Where's the angel?" he asked. They thought it was the fever talking. She was brown, hair like wires. "She sang to me." The mayor blinked. "You remember her?" "I remember her crying," he said. "And her hands. They hurt. But she held me." The mayor ordered a citywide search. Posters. Police sweeps. Even a reward. But Lila had retreated deeper than anyone could find. The last person to see her was a street vendor named Ramon. He told them she was sleeping under the I-94 bridge. When they arrived, all they found was an empty shopping cart and a soggy copy of The Count of Monte Cristo. 2 more days passed, and then something strange happened. A nurse at Mercy Hospital remembered her. She'd written the woman's name, Monroe, on a patient clipboard before the chaos overtook them. The nurse told the mayor. The mayor called in a favor. They dug up old records. Lila Monroe, former ER nurse, fired 7 years ago for slapping a surgeon who called her hood trash. After that, life spiraled. Eviction, breakdown, no family, but no criminal record, no drugs, just forgotten. The mayor stared at her photo for a long time. Then he walked out onto the city hall steps and faced the press. "You laughed at her," he said, holding up the viral video. "You pointed fingers. You made jokes. But she saved my son." Silence. "You cheered when she disappeared. But let me tell you who she really is." He told them. Every word. The city fell quiet. Then came the outpouring news, specials, hashtags. artists painting murals. The same people who mocked her now wept in front of cameras. But she didn't want their tears or their apologies. She wanted something they could never give back: dignity. At that moment, Lila was sitting beneath the same bridge with Trouble curled beside her, radio static whispering from a broken Walkman. She heard her name once or twice and everywhere. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just closed her eyes, because the world only saw her after she bled, only loved her after she vanished, only called her hero once it was safe. And still Stilthy didn't know the rest. They didn't know what happened when she found the boy. They didn't know she almost left him, that she almost walked away, because 6 months earlier she lost her own child to pneumonia. And no one had cared. Not the doctors, not the mayor, not anyone. And yet when the flood came, and the sky tore open, and the boy's little hand floated in the dark, she grabbed it. Because someone had to. Because someone had to do what the city forgot how to do. Be human. Lila didn't want the headlines. She didn't want the reporters with their plastic smiles, or the cameramen stepping over sleeping bodies just to get a better angle. She didn't even want the reward, check $50,000 with her name on it, signed in ink by the mayor himself. She tore it in half, then in half again, then tossed it into the wind. "What the hell's wrong with you?" shouted a city official. "That's your ticket out of this mess." But Lila just turned and kept walking. Her cart rattled behind her, Trouble meowing indignantly from his perch on top. She had lived in the shadows too long to trust the light. Everywhere she turned now, people wanted a piece of her. A foundation in her name, a children's book deal, a documentary, talk shows, apologies from men in suits who had once called her unfit, unstable, dangerous. Suddenly, her scars were symbols. Her silence was wisdom. Her pain marketable. But they didn't know her. Not really. They didn't know that at night she still heard her daughter's last breath. That sometimes she would dig through trash not because she needed Tobit, because it was the only place she felt she belonged. "Lila," said the mayor, catching up to her near the train station. "Please, let me at least talk to you. Man to woman, father to mother." She stopped, slowly turned. "You're not a mother," she said. "You still have your child." He looked wounded, but he didn't argue. "I owe you my son's life." She didn't respond. "I owe you more than that. And not because it's good press. Because I was part of the machine that forgot you. That failed you. I signed bills that shut down housing. Voted to cut mental health programs. I did this. We all did. And we've done it to thousands." Lila's eyes narrowed. "You mean people like me?" "I mean people exactly like you." She studied him. He wasn't crying, wasn't begging. And in that moment, she believed him. "I don't want your money," she said. "I don't want your cameras. I want something real. Name it. Fix it. Not for me. For the others. For the ones you don't see." The mayor nodded slowly. "I will." But words were wind. Lila had heard promises before. From churches. From outreach centers. From the same officer who once shattered her fingers when she tried to sleep in a closed park gazebo. Still, something in her wanted to believe. Maybe because of Sam the boy with the big eyes who held her hand when she couldn't stop shaking. The boy who'd asked if she was his angel. No, not an angel. Just a mother who'd lost too much and wasn't ready to let another child slip away. That night, she returned to the shelter on 5th and Main. Sister Agnes, the manager, nearly fainted when she saw her. "Lila, you're alive. I never stopped being. I thought you left for good after." She didn't finish the sentence. After the overdose. After the screaming. After Lila was dragged out in cuffs for trying to resuscitate a woman the staff had already given up on. But now, Sister Agnes looked at her differently. Not like a liability, but like someone holy. "I don't need a bed," Lila said. "I need a favor. Anything." Lila reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a folded, water-stained notebook. Her late daughter's notebook. I want to start a program for women like me. A place to detox, heal, learn, re-enter. You mean a shelter? No, Lila said, eyes hard. A beginning. Sister Agnes paused. Then she smiled. The next week, the Monroe House opened in a condemned church on the edge of Fairview. Just 6 cots, 1 toilet, a leaky roof. But it had Lila, and it had purpose. The first night, 2 women showed up. One was 17 and pregnant. The other had just been released from jail. Both were terrified, and both cried when Lila told them, "You are not broken. You are not waste. You are not invisible." Word spread. Within a month, the Monroe House was at full capacity. Lila worked 18-hour days, cooking, cleaning, reading, training volunteers. People donated food, paint, plumbing work. A retired teacher came in every Tuesday to teach GED prep. A former addict ran a self-defense class. But not everyone was happy. A local councilman called the place a magnet for junkies. Business owners petitioned to shut it down. One man threw a brick through the front window. Lila didn't flinch. "I've had worse thrown at me," she muttered, sweeping up the glass. The mayor kept his word. He rerouted funds to support transitional housing, reopened city-run clinics, hired more street outreach workers. But backlash was fierce. Critics called it the Monroe welfare wave. "I'm not asking for praise," the mayor told them. "I'm asking for decency." Then came a lawsuit, filed by a Fairview developer who claimed the Monroe House had lowered nearby property values. The case went public. People began choosing sides. Protests erupted outside City Hall. Support Lila. Human lives over property lines. We are not trash. Lila herself never appeared at the rallies. "I'm not a symbol," she told Sister Agnes. "I'm just tired of people needing to almost drown before we pull them out." But Little Sam Whitman had grown stronger. He visited the Monroe House on a cloudy Saturday, carrying a bouquet of dandelions and a shaky hand-drawn card that read, "Thank you for saving me." Lila held him for a long time, and when she finally let go, she whispered, "You saved me, too." The media followed Sam out the door, but not before he turned and shouted, "Give her a statue." The crowd laughed, but the words stuck, because sometimes it takes a child to speak the truth adults are too broken to say. And when the council voted weeks later on whether to keep funding the Monroe House, it was Sam standing beside his father who delivered the speech that changed everything. "I was scared," he told them. "I was dying, and she saved me. But I think she was dying too, and I think maybe I saved her a little. And now she's saving more people. So why would you stop her?" The chamber fell silent. The vote passed, unanimously. Outside, Lila didn't smile when they told her. She just nodded, then got back to work. Because the storm had passed, but the flood never really left. Not for people like her. It lived in every alley, every bench, every corner of a world that looked the other way. But now someone was finally looking back. Months passed, but Fairview didn't forget. Lila never asked to be remembered, but the city had changed not all at once, not in headlines, but in quiet ways. Where once there were cops with batons, now there were counselors with clipboards. Where neighbors used to cross the street to avoid the homeless, they now brought blankets and coffee. The Monroe House had grown. Donations came not in trickles, but in truckloads. Volunteers filled its halls. The second floor was renovated into classrooms. They offered job training, legal support, even therapy. A second house opened in East Fairview, then a third near the riverfront. Still, Lila never moved in. She continued sleeping under bridges, behind churches, on cots in dark corners. She said the ground kept her honest. One night, Sister Agnes confronted her. "You can't keep living like this. You deserve warmth, a bed, safety." "I have safety," Lila replied. "What I don't need is walls." You're building them for everyone else. Exactly. So they don't have to live how I do. Agnes folded her arms. What about you? Lila paused. She didn't know how to answer, because deep down, she believed safety was a luxury meant for others. That somehow, by choosing discomfort, she was balancing some cosmic scale. She had failed her daughter. She had vanished. She had been silent for too long. Now, all she could do was serve. But her body was breaking. The long nights, the stress, the cold had all caught up to her. She began coughing blood, ignored it, then collapsed in the alley behind Monroe House one early dawn, trouble pawing frantically at her chest. They rushed her to the ER. Same hospital where she had once saved Sam. This time, they knew her name. She was diagnosed with advanced pneumonia. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her own daughter had died of the same thing. Now here she was, tethered to tubes, monitors blinking, the world outside moving without her. The mayor visited. So did Sam, who read her books and held her hand. The news called her Fairview's mother. A mural went up on 6th and Carver. Lila, arms outstretched, holding a child above rushing water. Below it read, "No one is trash." But none of that mattered to Lila, because for the first time in years, she felt helpless. Her hands weren't working. Her legs didn't move right. She was used to pain, but not this stillness. She hated it. "I need to get out of here," she told the nurse. "You need to heal," the nurse replied gently. "You've carried the city. Let it carry you." It felt foreign, backwards, but true. So she waited and healed, slowly. When she was discharged 3 weeks later, a small crowd clapped as she was wheeled out. She scowled. "No more of that," she snapped. "Y'all look ridiculous." But she smiled when no one was looking. Trouble rode in her lap, fat and lazy from hospital scraps. Sam kissed her cheek and whispered, "Don't scare me like that again." "I'll try," she said. Back at Monroe House, she was given her own room. Just a cot, a lamp, and a photo on the wall her daughter, Mia, the one no one had ever seen. Agnes asked why now. "Because maybe I'm ready for people to know who I was. And who I still am." She began to talk. About Mia. About the cold night she died. About the way the nurse shrugged, said they were over capacity. About how Lila screamed and no one listened. About how she buried her baby with her own hands in a park before vanishing into the streets. She cried. Not softly. Loud. Unashamed. Women from the house held her, rocked her, cried with her, and something inside her shifted. She no longer walked with her head down. She let others help. She even wore a proper winter coat someone gave her, still frayed but warm. One day, during a citywide flood evacuation drill, Lila was asked to speak. "I'm not a politician," she told the crowd. "I'm not a saint. I'm someone who was left behind. But not anymore." Then she pointed to the woman with 3 kids and nowhere to go come to Monroe House. To the man sleeping behind the gas station come to Monroe House. To the girl afraid to go home come to Monroe House. "We'll be waiting." The mayor stepped forward, eyes glassy. He handed her a key. "To the city," he said. She stared at it, then chuckled. "Don't give this to me. I lose keys." Laughter. But she took it anyway. And then she said something that silenced the crowd. "We don't need to open more jails. We need to open our eyes. People fall, not because they're broken, but because no one caught them." That line went viral. It was etched in brass beneath her mural. But with attention came danger. An anonymous donor offered $1 million to the Monroe House, but only if Lila stepped down. "She's a liability," they said. "She doesn't have a degree. She's unwell. She's too radical." Sister Agnes brought her the offer. Lila read it in silence, then laughed so hard she nearly choked. "They think I do this for money." "You should see the donor list," Agnes said. "Real estate firms, banks, Even that councilman who tried to shut you down. I'm not leaving. They say you're unfit. I say they're late to the party. The offer was rejected. In protest, some donors withdrew. City funding was cut. But the people filled the gap. Barbers offered free haircuts. Farmers dropped off produce. Retired social workers taught life skills. Even former residents came back to volunteer. Monroe House didn't just survive. It thrived. And one winter night, just after the first snowfall, a woman knocked on the door. Thin, pale, eyes sunken. She asked for help. Lila opened the door herself. The woman collapsed into her arms. Lila held her, just like she had once held Sam, and Mia, and herself, because now she understood. No one saves the world. But if you can save one, it's enough. It's more than enough. Spring came late that year. Snow lingered in the corners of Fairview like stubborn memories. But inside Monroe House, hope bloomed early. The hall smelled of fresh paint and simmering stew. Laughter echoed, sometimes loud, sometimes soft, always real. Lila walked with a slight limp now. The pneumonia had left its mark. So had the years. But her eyes sharp, knowing, untamed, held the same fire that had pulled a dying child from a drowning street. She moved slower, but she moved with purpose. The city changed with her. Under pressure from public outcry and Lila's relentless visibility, Fairview City Council passed the Homeless Dignity Act, a landmark bill that restructured shelter zoning laws, increased low-income housing initiatives, and permanently protected the funding of transitional programs like Monroe House. Lila didn't attend the vote. She was busy helping a mother fill out paperwork to regain custody of her daughter. Paper's just paper, the mother whispered, shaking. They'll never give her back to me. Lila placed a hand on her shoulder. Paper doesn't raise children. Love does. But the paper helps us get to the love. When the woman asked what she owed her, Lila replied, "Pass it forward." That had become her motto. It was painted on the front of every Monroe house. Pass it forward. Not charity, not debt, just continuation. But Lila didn't want to be an icon. And the more they tried to paint her as one, the more she pulled back. The plaque they wanted to place in City Hall, she asked that it honor the residents instead. The statue proposed for the main square, she asked that it depict a child being lifted not by a hero, but by many hands. Make it about the we, she told the artist, not the me. But some stories do find their center. And Fairview, whether she liked it or not, had found its in Lila Monroe. One June morning, Sam Whitman, now 9 years old and obsessed with astronomy, asked if he could interview her for his school project. His assignment was interview a local hero. Lila groaned. You sure you don't want to talk to a firefighter? Or that lady who bakes the pies at the shelter? Nope, Sam grinned. You saved my life. You win. He brought a notebook. Asked real questions. Were you scared? Yes. Even though you're brave? Especially because I'm brave. Why did you save me? Lila didn't answer right away. Her gaze drifted to the window, where clouds moved slowly like old regrets. Because once, she finally said, someone didn't save mine. Sam looked down. I'm glad you were there. Me too, baby. That night, the mayor called. He asked if Lila would consider running the city's new Department of Transitional Services. 6 figures. Full staff. Total control. She turned him down. Why, he asked. Because I'm already doing the work, she said. I don't need the office. I've got a porch and a folding chair. That's where the real work happens. But think of the reach you'd have. Reach is overrated, Lila replied. Roots matter more. So instead, she nominated someone else, one of the first women Monroe House had ever helped, now clean for 2 years and raising a toddler on her own. She's ready, Lila said, and I trust her. The mayor laughed. You're going to outlive us all. But he was wrong. Lila's health declined that fall, quietly, without fuss. The cough came back. The limp worsened. She began sleeping longer, eating less. She never complained, just started writing more. Little notes, letters, instructions, names and numbers scribbled on in napkins. No one paid it much mind until they realized what she was doing. She was preparing. The night before she died, she sat on the back steps of Monroe House, wrapped in a quilt someone had made for her from old shelter t-shirts. Trouble curled in her lap, purring, fat and unbothered. Sister Agnes sat beside her. "You scared?" the nun asked softly. Lila smiled. "Not anymore." "Do you see her?" Agnes asked. Lila nodded. "She's waiting." Agnes took her hand. "What should I tell them?" Lila looked at the house, its lighted windows, its peeling paint, its laughter. "Tell them," she said, "to keep passing it forward. She died in her sleep. No pain, just peace." The city mourned like it had lost its heart. The mayor declared a week of remembrance. Murals multiplied. Candles lit sidewalks. Thousands came to the memorial, but it wasn't held in a church or auditorium. It was held right there on the lawn of Monroe House, between the vegetable garden and the swings. Sam spoke. "She didn't wear a cape," he said. "She wore a raincoat and boots, and she carried me when the water came." Agnes spoke. "She didn't preach. She did." And finally, the woman who now ran Monroe House, the one Lila had trained, trusted, believed in, stepped up and said, "She taught us how to love the forgotten, and that no one is forgotten if we remember." They planted a tree in her honor, a live oak. It grew faster than anyone expected. People said it was because of the soil, but Sam said it was because she was still here, in the laughter of the women rebuilding their lives, in the hands that reached out instead of turned away, in the arms that caught those who fell. They mocked her once. They called her garbage, invisible, a blight, but she became the roots of a new beginning. Not because she was perfect, not because she was pure, but because when it mattered most she showed up. She saved someone, and in doing so, saved herself, and in doing that, saved all of them. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.